Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our 89th installment of the Puckin' Around podcast. We got a good one for you tonight. Eastern parity equals Western tragedy. Well, we're going to be pretty much just doing a little circle around the NHL. Eastern Conference standings is an absolute clusterfuck. Third place in the Metro and last place in the entire East are 1 point apart. We're going to get into that and dive deeper. Why the East is playing so well and why the West kind of feels top heavy. We got a good crew for you tonight, starting with the man above me from the High Brew Nation. You know him, you love him, Goosey, Cam Sakarzik. Cam, how you doing tonight, brother?
I thought you were talking about God.
Dude, no man, the myth, the legend to follow that? That's terrible.
Well, listen, Eric
I'm doing
isn't
all right.
here tonight,
Doing
so we're going to
fine.
give it to someone.
I know, right? Mr.
Usually
Handsome
it's
Manson
Eric.
himself isn't with us. I know.
So you're
Normally
like
we're
second
hyping
in
that
command
man
for
up.
that. Usually that's Eric's title.
Dude, I'm vibing, man. I mean, my team's 500. Finally, fresh, clean slate to start November, and so we're just gonna see where it goes. But I'm happy to be here and talking hockey with all you guys, and it's
Cam
gonna
is
be a good
pumped that
show
the
because
Bruins
it's a
are
lot.
500. They're the only team in the East that's not above hockey 500, but they're 500 nonetheless. Also, I needed a reason to fucking bring that stat up. Thank you for setting me up perfectly. Also, the man to my right, Mr. Goosey's co-host from the High Brew Nation. Give it up for our first timer, Steve. Steve, how you doing tonight, bud?
Good. How are you?
He just needed a reason to play the Bruins goal.
Hey, listen, I'm
It's a
here
high
for
brew
it.
takeover.
I know it's usually a flyer takeover, but I don't have my co-host tonight, so I'm outnumbered. I don't like this.
That's all right. We need to represent the Atlantic tonight.
The Metro
Somebody's
is
got it.
falling faulty. And last but not least, the senior citizen of the group, the man to my top right-hand corner. You know him, you love him, Rick Slag Seligman. Rick, how you doing tonight, bud?
Good. I'm good. Tired.
You suck.
That was about as energetic as a wet noodle.
What? It's what I expect. The way you guys treat Canadians. What do you want from me?
I just gave you a nice hype up. I said the old
I
man,
suck.
the old veteran, nonetheless.
I got introduced, and I was told I suck. What do you expect out there? I mean,
You're miserable, aren't you?
I'm good though. I'll try to stay awake for the show.
God,
Someone get this guy a coffee, will you? You got to give him
Coffee?
You got an espresso shot.
Bro, give him a coffee.
Monster. It needs it all.
I was about
What
to
are
say,
you drinking,
give him like a inspirational cocktail. Get him like a Monster mixed with some coffee. Throw some like.
No, it's
I don't
okay.
know,
I got my
cream in
go-tos.
there.
I got my
What are you
go-tos. I'm
drinking?
good. It's a Rockstar mixed with. You ever see these little packets of Mio? It's called Mio. It's a little packet of
Yeah.
crystal you put in. I got 3 of those and a can of Rockstar in a 1.5 liter bottle. That's my mixture.
And it's still doing
It's
nothing.
very potent because it's like 1 packet too much of the Mio. But it gets the job done
Wait,
with
hold on.
very
So I have to-
little. I don't have to drink a lot, and it gets the job done. I don't know about today though.
I have to ask you, why Mio? Like,
Because
I remember
No,
like
here's
seeing
why.
those commercials
why.
like way back.
here's why: you get 10 of those things for $3. A can of Rockstar is $3. So, because I'm cheap, it does the job for very little money.
Honestly, the Mio squirt bottles are the shit. The iced tea one is
It's not
pretty
the squirt though.
I'm with that.
You got the energy stuff. It's in little individual serving packets.
Yeah, Steve, I
Anyway,
guess he's
that's what I
trying not
drink.
to dilute his Rockstar. He just wants to add the excipients into it. He just wants to add
man.
the
I need
salt.
the kick. I need the kick of it. It's got a kick.
God, well,
Oh,
hopefully
yeah,
it
he's
kicks
gonna
you the
get a kick
fuck
already.
up,
He's
dude.
going to be up till
You little-
3 a.m. drinking that.
Hopefully, no.
Right, and then he's going to text us
I'm up
tomorrow.
till 3 anyway. I'm up till
His
3
insomnia is going to be kicking it. We're going to get a message in our group chat at 2:37. Hey, you guys up?
I do this for game day though. When I do a game, I drink this.
Oh.
That's the
I just
definition
gotta
of
see that.
pre-workout for Rick. Like he's just like he gets jazzed up and right
No,
before
it's
a
my
Canadiens
version of
game,
coffee.
He snorts a line of Mio.
You guys drink
And
coffee. You
just
guys
downs
get
a Rockstar.
lattes, and you walk around with it. This is my version of it. What's the problem?
Yeah, we're in America. We
Okay,
drink coffee.
hold on.
You can stick your tea up
Yeah,
again.
you're in America.
Just
That's
give
your
us our
problem.
guns
Not
for
my
happy.
problem.
Sip your tea. Good day, mate. What is it?
brother.
I don't know what the fuck they
Good day. Good day,
Hasn't-
mate.
That-
That's Australian.
Yeah,
Cheers.
that's you got
Is
the
that
wrong
Australian? I have
country
no
there.
idea. Can't
All right,
don't rely on me for
sidetracked.
any
British
accent.
shit.
Talk about freestyling. We were really sidetracked.
We did. We
That's
got off
fine.
topic
Why
real
can't you
quick.
just have fun? Just live in this moment with me, Rick. Live in this moment with me.
I think I am. I hope I'm alive.
Somebody
All right,
check
let
the
me
pulse.
pull everyone back in because
Yeah,
we got
hang
a
on.
lot to talk
Hang on.
about tonight, especially in
Phew, yeah,
regards to
I got a pulse. I'm good.
the Eastern Conference. It is an absolute mess. If we're looking at the standings as of today, so I'm gonna just break this down as well as I can. So
Oh,
top of the top of the East, you got 4 teams with 18 points: the Canadians, Red Wings, Devils, and last team's a little surprising, Pittsburgh Penguins.
You should have slowed
Last
down a little bit
place in
there.
the East is a 6-way tie at 13 points. The difference between third in the Metro and third in the Atlantic and dead last in the East is 1 point. Boys,
Wild.
have you ever seen this much parity within a conference
wait,
right
what
now?
did you say?
We're a month in. It's not like we're like a weekend. We're about a month into the season now, and it's still this jam packed.
It's
What is
5
the
points
reason for this?
difference.
No, he's
Top to
talking about
bottom.
he's talking about from third place in each division.
Oh, third. I
Yeah.
didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
Because
Yeah.
even looking in each division, in the Atlantic, the Lightning are third, 14 points, at 6-4-2, and the Sabres are in 8th, 13 points, 5-4-3. Where in the Metro, the Hurricanes are third, with 11 games, 14 points, 7-4-0, and then last in the Metro is my Philadelphia Flyers.
What was that?
6-5-1.
Yeah, I had trouble hearing
What was
that.
that?
Say that again. What was that?
Listen, that could literally change by tomorrow.
We
That's
didn't
how much
hear.
Who-
What could change? What could change? I didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
it-
Who's
I
in
told you
last
Flyers
in that
Is that what
division?
you wanted to hear?
Yeah, who's on the bottom there? We didn't hear.
Yeah, give it a
Flyers.
bit. All right. I don't think the Bruins fans have much room to talk. You're the only team not above Hockey 500 in the East.
Closer to the top than we are from the bottom, buddy. That's all I'm gonna say.
Because
Suck
you
on
play
that.
more
Yeah,
games.
for real.
You
You
notice
have
that
1 point
who's
with
on the
2
top,
games
though?
more played.
Y'all notice
Oh,
who's on
Rick,
the top.
Rick, we know Montreal's on top. Actually, you know what? To be
That's
fair,
it.
Rick, I'm actually glad Montreal is getting
So why?
better.
About
Why am I
time.
glad?
Yeah, why?
I'm glad because honestly, dude, like I've said before, and like Steve and I even talked about it on High Brew, and like he'll probably give his bit on this too when I shut the fuck up. And like the league is so much better when you have a vast majority of the original 6 teams in a competitive mindset.
No, you didn't go far enough. What you meant to say
What
was
do you
the
want me to
league is
fucking
that
do?
much better when Montreal Canadiens win the cup.
No, I disagree.
No,
I
no,
think
it's-
that's
the
what I
highest
heard.
opinion
No,
right there,
that's what I heard.
No, it's you need 3 out of the 6 originals to have a competitive league, in my opinion. You need to have three of the 6 in a fighting chance for a cup.
As long as
And-
Toronto's not there, I'm good.
Hey, listen, I agree with you. We're making progress there, but
And guess what? They're not there.
they're not.
It's a mess
Not.
right now. It's way
They're
too
not.
early. No one's out except Calgary in the
Yep.
entire league. So
Yeah, but
It's in San
Toronto's
Jose.
sitting. Hey, listen, we've got to enjoy it while we can because you never know. But they're sitting in 14th place in the conference. Love it.
and literally by tonight they
And
could be
Bruins
up
have
to
their
third
first
in the
overall
division.
pick.
because
I
they're playing
know.
as we speak.
I know. There's no separate. There's not a lot of separation. We're 12 games into the season.
Also,
Look,
to the point
not-
of Montreal being on the top, I like it as a Bruins fan because I want some of that hostility back between Montreal and Boston.
Mhm.
Don't worry.
It's
Wait
been
till we
lacking
play.
for the past couple years. Actually, probably last 8 years, in my opinion. But I want that rivalry back because that's good for hockey.
That's
And
kind of
we're-
how I feel with Philly and Pittsburgh now. And we kind of got a little bit of spark with that last week when both teams are going down each other's throat with that crazy overtime and shootout. That was one of the most craziest things I've seen in a while. 2 goals called back in overtime, and then a bench clearing brawl to end not a line brawl to end overtime.
To add to Alex's question though about have we seen this before? Last year we did, but I think it was more league wide than it is just in the East. But this year it seems to be isolated in the East. And I was watching NHL Network and they brought up like, the closeness of the points, and they were like, well, that must speak to the weakness of the East. And I'm just like, that's weird because in East versus West teams, the East dominates 58-24-4, according to StatMuse. So I don't know where they're getting like that information from. Maybe it's just opinionated, but the East is, I think, by far and away better than the West so far.
To me, what you just mentioned is, I think it's the exact opposite of what the NHL analysis crew is saying. I think it's so competitive in the East that every game matters so much more, and if you lose one, you might not get it back. And we can all agree that the West is very top heavy, and you have what, 6 teams that are actually really good, maybe
I
5.
want to bring something up. Speaking of East versus West right now, do you know what the East record against the West this season is as a collective whole?
58-24-4.
52, 28, and 4.
Wow.
They have owned the West in a collective group as a whole. And this is a big reason why there's so much parity in the East. In fact, the bottom 6 teams in the league, to follow off of your point, Steve, the bottom 6 teams in the league right now are all from the West. That's how much that the East has dominated the West so far. And this kind of leads back to another argument that I've personally been a little bit adamant for the last couple of years. Does the NHL look at this at some point? Because another thing we brought up in our group chat, overtime losses. The East has 16 right now. The West has 38. That's crazy.
Yep.
With that being said, does the league need to consider implementing a 3-2-1-0 point system? Because I think I've never been a crazy fan of loser points. If you're going to reward a team for losing in overtime, you need to reward a team for winning in regulation more, in my personal opinion. Every game should be a 3-point game if they're going to do that.
Alex, can you elaborate on how that system works? Because you mentioned 3-2-1-0. So can you just
if they were to go to the
3-2-1-0
system, that way you get 3 points for a regulation win. You get 2 points for an overtime shootout win, 1 for an overtime shootout loss, and then 0 for a regulation loss. And what would be interesting about that, you notice that whenever games are tied, teams always seem like they get passive in play for the OT, and more times than not, they end up. There are occasions that they don't. Yesterday, we saw the Islanders in Columbus have a last-minute goal that they ended up winning on. But more times than not, when games are tied late, teams play not to lose more than to win. I feel like you would see more high-paced energy hockey in those last few minutes because teams know they might be giving up a point, not winning in regulation. I think the league, at the end of the day, it's not going to happen this year or next year, but in the near future, I would like to see the league consider going to that 3-2-1-0 point system because it would bring more exciting hockey in the late stages of games, and B, it would make winning in regulation more meaningful than winning in overtime. Because like I said, if you're going to reward a team for losing in overtime, you should reward a team winning in regulation more because that win becomes more meaningful.
Yeah, I agree because it could work because if you think of it this way, instead of splitting the difference of 1 point in an overtime loss, now you're splitting the difference of 2 points, and that's where it matters more. Like I don't know if necessarily, like, because a win is a win in my opinion, because then you're splitting the difference of 1 point in an overtime win. So yes, I agree with you in the sense where that will matter more down the road. I just don't know if that aspect of it will inspire teams to play harder in regulation, but I think they could definitely understand what's more at stake. I think it would you might see them play a little harder, but I don't think it's it's still a hockey game, and some goalies can stand on their head. I mean, I'm not trying to refute your point because I do agree with you. I'm just trying to think of like how the player mentality will see that and how the coaching mentality will see that.
I think in the big picture what would benefit for it, because we have seen teams make the playoffs with ample amount of overtime losses. If I remember correctly, it was a while back ago, but there was a year, I remember the Florida Panthers had 18 overtime losses
The
that led
Islanders
them
too,
to
they had like
making the
15.
playoffs. And doing something like that makes you not reward a team who loses in overtime at a regular basis as much. Like, I want to see teams, if you're going to win and you win in regulation, I just want to see it mean more, because the games that have 3 points versus 2 points split out, I feel like those extra dangling points here and there, you could have a team with 40 wins make the playoffs over a team hypothetically with 44 because they happen to lose 9 more games in overtime. I think at the end of the day, that eliminates that type of advantage. It doesn't happen too often, but it happens often enough when you see that win differential. Because if, in my opinion, if you're gonna, again, I'd rather just do win-loss if it was up to me. But if you're going to keep the overtime loss point in, you should at least get rewarded more for a regulation win, in my opinion, because of that.
Yeah, but I'd rather see them. You win or you lose. You don't get a.
And I agree with that.
You go to overtime. The 2 points are still on the line, but only to the winner. And yeah, I don't. But I don't think they're going to go backward though, because
I don't think it'd be going backward. It would be going.
No, but having the 3
higher,
point, having that extra point has brought the scores, the points totals closer, and made the late season races go longer. And I think that's what they're looking for, to see how long can they make that excitement and that unknown who's going to get there kind of thing is what I think they're looking for. But I'd prefer.
I'll give you an example right now. But when we'll go out west for this example. The Winnipeg Jets are 9-3-0. They have 18 points. The Colorado Avalanche are 7-1-5. They have 19 points.
Yeah.
There's not many examples of this, but Colorado, in retrospect, is 7-6 if you go by wins and losses. Winnipeg is 9-3, but Colorado's ahead of them because they've lost 80 bajillion games in overtime. They have been the league overtime merchants this year. Do you think that's my issue with it?
Eliminate giving a point to.
And I agree. Either do that, or if you're going to reward teams for overtime losses, and the parity in the East and the 8 billion overtime losses in the West kind of prove my point a little bit. If you're going to reward a team for a loss in overtime, you should make a regulation win that much more impactful.
Yeah.
So Steve was a former referee for you still do ref on the side. Oh, awesome. So Steve used to ref for just high school hockey games and other games like that. So like just from seeing it from a ref's perspective, Steve, do you think let's look at the two options. Do you think a 3-2-1-0 system would be better than just a 2 or nothing system? Because like think about it, right? Like then what's the point of overtime? Why not just end it in a tie?
I don't even think you go to a point system anymore if you do a 2 or nothing system. You may as well just do wins and losses like any other sport would, if they're going to get rid of the overtime loss.
But then just do a tie.
Point. As a referee, it doesn't really matter because my job isn't to calculate the standings of the points. That's the people in the league. My job is to call a fair and equitable game and make sure nobody's getting advantages they're not supposed to have, right? But as a former player, I like the way it is right now, to be honest with you, because it's not necessarily rewarding a team for an overtime loss, right? I mean, Rick, you can talk to this. If when it was tied, it just went to a tie and you split the points, correct?
Yeah.
Back in the day, right?
Yeah.
And you're still essentially splitting the points. I think the incentive to win is there in overtime, and you should be rewarded for winning. But forcing overtime, especially on teams that aren't that good, is a way they can salvage a point and make the whole league more interesting. Because to Rick's point earlier, it's the late season races for the wild card spots. I mean, they've been so entertaining in the past 5 years it's been really coming down to the wire in that late season to see who's actually making the playoffs and who's not, right? Like, I like the aspect of what it is right now. And if we're just going to go, screw overtime, if you end in a tie, it's going to be split points. It's just going to go based on record, in my opinion. But I kind of like the aspect of it right now because it makes the end of season for those fringe teams to kick out a wild card 2 or a wild card 1. And I like the movement that every day when it comes to, end of March, April, I'm watching those standings flip every day because I find that just entertaining. And it's like, oh, who's gonna, what game matters more right now? It's like, this team has one more game than this team, but they're only 2 point separation. Can this team push through it? I mean, I just kind of like it the way it is now because I think you should be rewarded for forcing overtime, especially as a bad team, but you're also getting rewarded to win the game with a normal quote unquote win of 2 points. And I think the way they're doing it now actually is kind of fair and equitable as it is. And I think if I'm being real with you, if we go to that 3-2-1-0 system, it's going to make our fucking lives miserable trying to calculate, oh, this team, won in regulation, but they forced OT on this one, and like trying to calculate everything, going back and forth, looking at the standings, and it's like, oh, how come there's so much of a point gap now? Oh, it's because of a regulation win and a OT loss. You know what I mean? It's getting crazy. It gets crazy at the end when you're sitting there calculating everything. I just like the way it is because, one, I'm familiar with the system, but I think it's also probably the fairest way to do it.
Alex, before you go, let me just get this in here because I think it might add to yours and I's point as well as Steve's and Rick's. So who will get what's more advantageous for teams? Getting the system the way it is now, or would Alex's proposal be more advantageous? Like, how would changing those systems change the current standings? Because if you look at it now, how drastic of a change will we see that impact, right? Where if we did Alex's 3-2-1 system,
I think it goes back to going straight up wins and losses, because giving that extra point on the win, 3 points, takes away what they're trying to do by giving the loser point in OT, I think.
I don't think,
and I think it gives more separation, which is maybe what some people want, to see more separation of the better teams. But I don't think that's what the NHL wants. Because I think if you give 3 points for a regulation win, you're going to see more separation at the end. And that's not what they want. It kind of negates that extra point, I
want to refute that a little bit, because where it may show that more separation, it would be easier to make up gaps at the same time because of the ability to get 3 points at once versus 2, which means the gaps aren't as sizable. It's a double-edged sword, really. And not only that, I think it just adds it. Hold on, Ken. Let me finish my point. Then you get.
I know I'm getting excited. I'm sorry.
The other thing about it is it adds a little bit of fairness of making every single game a 3-point game versus where some teams end up having 3-point games, where another teams will have 2-point games.
Again, in their game. The top teams on winning, they're going to have way more points. You're going to have that separation.
But it'll be easier to make that up, too. It won't be as
No, it won't.
It's a double-edged sword because
it won't. You're already shitty. You're not winning games. How are you making it up?
If you're winning, that's the whole point. If you're winning games, I'm just saying, in theory, it would be easier to make it up, too, because you have the ability to get 3 points in a game.
I don't agree with that.
Versus 2.
Here's another question, right? So the winners, it's going to separate the winners, but we didn't think about the opportunity. Like, how does it impact the draft lottery? Does that incentivize tanking? Because now if you're looking at teams that are getting 0 points, but other teams are getting 2s and 1s,
well, there you go.
How does that impact draft lottery odds? How does that does that incentivize teams that will have a more likelihood of being able to tank?
I would think
so. That wouldn't have nothing to do with
what are those impacts?
Players aren't
easier to tank. Wouldn't it be easier to tank as well?
The upper management might, But the
Well,
actual
players never
they're
tank.
gonna play their ass off every night.
No.
Players never tank.
I'm not
It's always
saying
you're
I'm
talking
not
about
saying
management.
the players.
You
No,
have
I'm
to
not
be
talking about the players.
right.
No, not talking about the players because it's just going to be an inherent part of the scoring system and how it works. How do you guys think that could, because it'll definitely have a large impact on playoff seeding for sure. Because you're right. I think guys, you guys have a great point that you'll probably see a larger gap for teams that are better regulation teams. But how does that also impact teams who can need, like, if it does just go to extra time and they only get 2 points, that
Fringe
also
team.
impacts the bottom half. Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
No,
So-
you're talking about the fringe teams, and
Yeah.
that's kind of my point with it. Is day one of the season, everybody has equal opportunity to make the playoffs the way it is, and I think that's why I said it's the most fair way possible to get this done. And I'm going to refute your point, and I understand what you're saying, but the 3-point game is kind of ridiculous because no team is walking away with 3 points. Right? It's either you lose an OT and you get 1 out of it because you forced OT, or you win an OT and you get 2. Well, yes, two plus 1 is 3. No winning team is walking away with 3 points, right? And it still shows up as a win, which is still only 2 points. And I think the NHL wants to keep games close while upping scoring because they want a fair and equitable league to make it, to sit there and say on day 1 through the season or day 50 on the season, you have a fair enough shot to make up what you lost in the beginning of the season or about halfway through to try to push for a playoff position. And I think if we add that 3-2-1 system, you're taking away from those kind of fringe teams who might not be able to squeak out enough to bounce a wild card 2 team down.
It gets you back to being just wins, losses, and ties. There's no difference by adding that 3-point game. Then you're having that same kind of separation, top and bottom, as you used to have before they changed it with the overtime loser point. You're just going right back to that.
Honestly,
that's what I think.
Me personally, I would rather go to a win and loss system, as you just stated, Rick. However, if you're going to do the point system, the argument you guys are making, again, in theory, is still a double-edged sword. Even if teams aren't as likely to make it up based off of this skill set, the gap might be wider, but it'll be easier to shrink it as well. It's an accordion effect.
Yeah, but you won't have the playoff races.
I'm going to disagree with that.
You won't have the playoff races you're having the last bunch of years.
Yes, you will, because in theory,
No, you won't.
can still make
No,
those
you
up.
won't.
No, you won't. Because if a team goes on a losing streak, let's say a 5-game losing streak, you're already 15 points.
But you're also assuming the other team's going to win all 5 games.
Point.
I actually am.
It's not.
I actually am assuming that teams are going to go on 5-game heaters because if this is the way we're going to do it, it's not fair and equitable. Just you're making the points larger, but there's like betting in
You're
football,
making the margin smaller.
You're making the margin smaller, but the fact is, it's not every game. Like you're adding so many different points into the scale of it, where it's not going to be equitable, like you're talking about.
Yeah,
like when it goes from 2 to 1,
in theory,
it's not going to be equitable.
Team A can go on a 5-game win streak, and Team B goes on a 5-game lose streak. Who's to say they can't do the exact opposite 5 games later? It's still a
why?
Right.
Because in general, shitty teams don't win enough to get themselves back in like that.
I'm actually transitioning and I'm more aligning with Rick and Steve on this because they bring up a very good point. And when teams start getting on heaters, that separation doesn't become reachable. It becomes exponentially more difficult for the teams that it makes your margin for error so small. You're basically going to be asking those teams for perfection.
And the league
it's already
want
small in today's league. I don't think it makes as much of a difference as you think.
The league wants these races at the end of the season that we're getting.
And then you're going to have more situations. And I'm not saying it's always going to be like this, but it's going to probably be once or twice a year where you have a team hypothetically with 41 wins and 12 overtime losses get in over a team that has, say, 44 wins and 5 overtime losses. That's the issue for me, is you take the win perspective out of it a little bit.
But you're going to have, again, teams that are just too far ahead that nobody's going to catch, just like it used to be.
Yeah.
It's already like that.
It
I
is
There's
disagree.
not.
already teams too
I
far
disagree.
ahead that no one's going to catch.
No,
It's not going
I
to make
think
much
it's
of a difference, as
closer.
you think.
in a degree.
Yeah, the
I
good
think it's
teams.
At that point of the
closer
year,
than
at least.
Well, that's how I see it.
I think it's a double-edged
Michael.
sword, personally. I don't think we're going to agree on this. I personally, Rick, I agree with you just going back to wins and losses. That's my number one perspective. But I'm just saying, if you're sticking with the points, that's how I would like it, because I just don't like the fact that teams can stay in races based off of losing games in overtime. Because then it just lets bad or less quality teams into the
You're
play.
missing something that I'm saying, though. I'm saying if you would go 3-2-1-0, it's the same as wins and losses, and they
And
left
No, it's
that
different.
Wouldn't that
because
benefit your argument?
Yes,
then?
it is. It's the same because you're giving too many points for the regulation win.
No, it's different.
But if you're
No, it's
on
different.
the side
It,
of wins
No, it's
and
not
losses,
different.
Hold on,
You can
Alex.
say the way you want.
argue for that then.
Alex, wait 1 second. Alex, wait 1 second. I'm gonna
Mathematical
prove-
equation. If
I'm
you
gonna
ask
help
me,
you.
isn't it?
If you actually go straight wins and losses, it's more representative of what we have now, except that there's no points awarded to the loser in any capacity, whether it be an OTL, a shootout loss, what have
And
you.
that'll
But if you
create
were to go to a
separation.
3-2, but if you were to go 3-2-1-0, then you're talking about larger scale differentials, because now OT basically means near nothing as regulation. And I mean
You're saying
near
it'd be
nothing,
worse.
I
especially.
don't think it's
It'll
near.
be
It's a
worse, and
point
they won't.
difference if you win.
It will be worse. The separations will be worse, and you won't have these late season races that the league wants. They want teams in it as long as possible for money. It
I'd
brings
contest
more
that.
money to the league.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's just about the money. I mean, of course, everything's about money. But the fact is, late season hockey games,
dollar bill, y'all.
dollar bill. I mean, at the end of the season, the quality of hockey games is exponentially better, and they want to keep
I
that.
agree with 100%.
And they want to keep that for as long as possible because it gets the viewers coming in.
Right,
It's nothing
viewers who watch ads, and it's all about money.
But also, like for me, I don't give a fuck about the ads. I'm going to buy what I want to buy. I want to watch a quality hockey game that's just not the Bruins, right? Like I want to see my Bruins win, but I also enjoy the game of hockey, and I want to see good hockey games, especially when teams want to win and they need to win to get into the playoffs. Excuse me, they're going to play much better.
That's right. I believe that. I think you're seeing much better hockey at the end of the year because think of it, when teams are really out of it, are they really playing? Some of them are playing to be spoiler, but some of them are checked out at that point. But now you're giving more teams like that a shot.
Playing for pride.
And they're playing to actually, they have somewhat of a shot longer than they ever did. That's what the league wants. And honestly, it's made for some really good season-ending races.
I'm going to do one last rebuttal on that. You say you want teams to have a shot longer than other teams, correct?
I want to see the races, like the excitement be there right to the last day. Yeah.
So with that being said, these teams will be able to be in races longer. And let me finish. For two reasons. One, because the ability of gaining 3 points in a game versus 2. And 2, for the sheer fact that these teams, your mathematical elimination will be further out. You could still talk yourself into making a playoff spot, hypothetically, being 7 points out with 3 games left. You could say, oh, if team A behind me loses 3 games and 1 is in overtime, and I win my remaining 3 games in regulation, you could see more intense stuff like what you saw with the Minnesota Wild when they pulled the net in overtime. Do you remember that? And 4 aside, you're going to see more exciting moments like that. Or when the Flyers and Capitals played and they had to pull the net in even strength. You're going to add a little more anarchy and chaos in that as well.
Here's my contention.
You're going to see less. You're going to teams that now make that extra point and get themselves up. They're not as good. Those teams will never be able to catch up with that 3-point system. Never.
Rick, here's my contention to Alex's point is that while yes, that regulation loss will be 0, but a regulation win is 3. But by that time, through the 82 game season, you got to think about regulation versus overtime wins. So I actually think adding that extra point will increase the separation to such a degree where you won't see that closeness that you see currently. Now, do I agree that teams definitely can be OT merchants and squeak their way into the playoffs that way? Yes. That's been shown and that's been seen. And we're not even a fourth of the way through the season yet. But it honestly, like you mentioned, Colorado with 19 points, 7 wins and 5 OT losses. Yeah, those OT losses are kind of help carry you a little bit. But I think it even adds excitement because, Winnipeg is right behind them. It's not like they're not there. So they've actually convinced me. Congratulations, Steve and Rick. You've convinced me now more than ever that the system that they have is fine, but maybe should the tiebreakers, should those change? How should those change? Should they change? How do you make it so that it's better suited to kind of put those OT losses to have them count less? Because they already divide it by row number, which is like they have your regulation wins count higher. Is there a way that the NHL can kind of say, we want to keep it close, but we also want to acknowledge that, a loss in OT should not weigh as much as it does? Is there a world where that exists?
No,
I don't think so right now under the current way that they're doing things. But also, I don't want to not be rewarded for forcing an OT game. Like, let's say if you're a bottom feeder team, all right. Example: San Jose and Colorado, right? San Jose is a clear bottom feeder team. If they force OT against a Colorado who has talent and they're a pretty decent team, they should not be not rewarded for forcing OT. And I think the whole problem is like we're rewarding teams for OT losses, but I can see why they're doing that. And it makes sense to me because no matter what, a game is worth 2 points for a win. And the only way that a bottom feeder team can squeak out any points against a really good team is to beat them in regulation or even just force an OT. And I'm okay with that because like we've talked about, it's the last season push or the end of season push to make the playoffs has been coming down to the wire. And honestly, I'm okay with teams getting in because of OT wins. Like I'm okay with that because they're still getting the points and they're still finishing the job of getting the 2 points.
And
but also they're going to get bounced in the playoffs.
But it also gives you those first round matchups that aren't the same every year. That's a good
That's
thing.
That's a completely different argument,
You
Rick.
get more variety in the playoffs, but
that.
it's what the league wants, right? It's what the league wants.
Yep.
The league wants that end of the season interest, that increased excitement, and they want them in parity. They want more variety in the playoffs,
which I think is good for hockey in general. Is to have different variety every playoffs is a good thing.
Yeah, I don't have
because
a
imagine
problem with that.
Steve has a good point because imagine just seeing the same team. Like, do you want it to be like the NBA where there was that stretch of period of time where it was like constantly the Heat and the goal, like the
we already have them in the NHL. We see
I'll give an example.
Toronto and Florida all battle each other every year in the East.
Well, here's an example for me. Every year, what team did we meet almost every fucking year? Boston. To the point where it got to be a bit of like boring.
How many times have we seen the Bruins and Leafs face each other in the last decade plus? 4 or 5 times?
You bring up the Atlantic, but the Atlantic, I believe, also has they have 2 of the original 6 teams, or 3 of them. Sorry, they have half of the original 6 teams in that division. So you would expect those original 6 teams to be competitive. I mean, everyone has brought up wonderful points, and I think there's no perfect way because nothing's ever perfect. And I know that's an easy scapegoat to say, but I don't think there's any perfect way that you're going to solve these problems. Because if you go to the 3-2-1-0 system, you're going to run into problems there. And then if you go to the win-loss system, you're going to run into problems there. And I think like Steve and Rick put it beautifully, here, where this might have been the best middle ground that they could have addressed both those issues. Now, like I said, like again, a great argument to be had, something that maybe the league can continue to look at. I mean, right now, again, we're not even 1/4 of the way through the season, right? But I like the idea of seeing like the fact that my team is 500. So isn't the other rest of the teams in the East as well. So like now it's competitive. Now every point matters. Every game matters. So I'm with them on that.
I think this is just something we'll have to agree to disagree on.
Great point. Sorry.
That was just like I love the competitiveness. Yeah. I am for that, but I don't want to. I just don't like rewarding teams constantly for losing in overtime. And if you are going to, I will stand by. I just want to see teams have more reward for winning in regulation, because I think that's I'll just stick with that, because I don't think we're going to agree on this point.
I think we get your point, and I think you presented your case very wonderfully. At first, I was on your side. Now I'm against you. Sorry. I guess that's just the nature of things. For once, you and I agreed on something, and then I was able to flip. So such is the nature of things. But guys, it was a great
the universe naturalizing itself, us being against each other.
Right. It corrected itself. And I mean, there's going to be separation in the East, because by the way it looks like, they were 52-28-4 when playing Western teams. And I think in the first month, that means a lot of teams, I mean, a lot of games have yet to be played, interdivisionally. So within the East, so that means we're going to see the separation start in the coming months, and then we're going to be able to discuss it even further then. But as of right now, it's tight. And it's not going to be, because there are many teams in the East that I think are going to drop off. I think the New York Rangers, I think they're some of the biggest pretenders. The only person that gives a shit is Shesterkin. Toronto, they're healthy scratching Matthias Michelli tonight, at the time of this recording. So it's like there's a couple teams that I think in the East are going to be in big trouble. Bruins even included, I think, in some capacity.
Agreed.
Because and then look at the West. Go ahead, Steve.
I think with the way the schedule works now too, it's every team gets to play every team at least once, right? And then that's why your division games matter so much more. So once you start seeing more divisional games, that's when you're going to see the separation in the East and even further in the West. I think, I think it's been good so far, where they had a nice mix of, teams that aren't in your division playing, but you're going to start seeing it. But that's why the division games matter so much too. And nobody talked about that, where it's like, hey, Boston, Toronto, they got pretty much a back-to-back game, a home and away, and you need to win both of those games. And that's where the emphasis is winning in your division.
See, this is something me and you are on the same side of. I've always been someone emphasizing more on more division games versus versus having 30 out of conference games. Now,
they will be. Next year they're elevating to 84 games in the 2 additional.
Yeah, but they're only adding 2 division games. It's not a massive difference.
That's a lot. That's basically 4. Now each person within the division plays each other 4 times. So
yeah, and they're doing that just so everyone does that, because there's 2 teams that play each other 3 times that they had for like a 5-year stretch, because they had an uneven amount of teams.
Yep.
I've made this argument on prior shows. I'm all for having you play your division more times if you're going to be doing this nonsensical top 3 2 wild card setup instead of going 1 to 8 that I've been wishing for about a decade now.
That's something I wish too. I like the 1 through 8 seed.
I am 100% with you on that, Steve. I have wanted them to go back, because you get the same matchups in the playoffs almost every year. Or almost the same matchups. It might be
but I feel like the 1 through 8 is probably the most fair way to do it. I agree there too. While having the point structure, set up the way it is. But for me, divisional games matter so much more now, though, because of you have to play on the West Coast. And you know what? It's a ploy to make money, because guess what? If you're the San Jose Sharks, or look, actually, I got a better example. If you're the Arizona Coyotes, ancient, right? the only way you're getting fans to go to that arena is from out of towners. I talked to somebody last week at Arizona, and he consistently told me, he was like, yeah, games are cheap. They're dirt cheap. And there was more people consistently from the other teams, the away teams fan base that was at that game. So it's a way to make up the difference so the league isn't losing money and teams aren't losing money. And obviously that didn't work out for Arizona because the guy didn't pay his bills, and then they had to move to a college arena and then move to a whole different state. But I kind of like the fact that I get to watch the Bruins play the Ducks, right? Like, I like the fact that we're going to play the LA Kings. I like that we're going on West Coast road trips, and I enjoy seeing a different flavor of teams to see how we compare with, back when Bergeron was playing, it was, two guys who are very similar in play style with Anze Kopitar and Bergeron. How do they match up? How does that work, right? I like seeing the dynamic aspect of the game, but I think right now, as it stands, those divisional games are still super important. And, yes, you're playing teams, 3 times as 2 times, whatever it is. You get what did you just say? It was like 2 teams
at least twice.
Yeah.
Home and away.
Yeah, you get play, so the way it is now, you have you get 2 games against the opposing conference, 3 against the opposing division, and all but 2 teams in your division you play 4 times. The remaining 2 teams you play twice. And that's the reason why they're adding those 2 extra games to make it an even number.
Yep. And to Steve's point, I think this is actually one of the things that the NHL does right that, football doesn't, and maybe other leagues don't, because in football you don't get to, it's hard in football, right? Because they bang each other up, and just the nature of the game and the way players play, leading with the head and whatnot, and some of the physicality between the game, you can't have a season that long for that type of a game. But I think the NHL, making sure that everyone gets to see, every team in their own home barn. I think it's one of the greatest things. Cause I'd love to see McDavid here, every year, once, or even Kirill Kaprizov, like Steve mentioned, Hans Kopitar, who's playing his last year. Those are the things I really enjoy seeing. So I think that's fine the way it is, but they could go back to 1 to 8. That much I agree with you, but that's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
I do want to focus on some of the teams that we thought were going to be better and so far have proven us otherwise. And I know in the East it's tight, but I don't anticipate that staying that way. In fact, I think the West will eventually see it where they're going to tighten up a bit, and then the East will loosen up a bit, and then you'll start seeing the parity across the entire league. The New York Rangers need to blow it up big time. Artemi Panarin wants out because they're not close in contract talks. Alexi Lafreniere is looking like a bust, and I don't even think it's his fault. I think it's just the product of the team he's on. Mika Zibanejad's a regression. Bringing back JT Miller and making him the captain was one of the worst decisions they've ever made. And the way Chris Drury runs that team is absolutely abysmal with the way he treats his players. I get it's a business, but you just don't treat people that way because it makes you a less desirable location. And breathe.
Yeah. No, I think what your point with the coaching, it's who wants to play for a coach like that? And it makes it completely undesirable.
GM.
Yeah, sorry, GM. Chris Drew's the GM.
Mike Sullivan's the coach over there. And, I'd love to play for him, but also it's when your GM is kind of holding your ankles to the fire consistently, it's it's not good for business. And a losing team is not a good strategy for a positive revenue season, right? It's just not.
Can I say something with Mike Sullivan and the Rangers? He literally left Pittsburgh, that is an older team regressing with minimal to no future, to go to the Rangers that are suddenly looking like they're in the same exact cesspool. What exactly was he thinking about that?
To be fair, yeah, Steve has a point. He's doing the finger motions for money. Sure, money was probably a factor, but I think also he might have saw a unique challenge with the Rangers. But if you think about it, the Rangers have the goalie in Shesterkin. They have Adam Fox Gavrikov. They have a decent defense. Like they lost Keandre Miller, which I think was one of the biggest mistakes. But
Their
they
defense
had
hasn't
like
been
on
the issue.
yeah, but if you look at their offense, like on paper, the team should be playing better than the way they are, but they aren't. And I think a coach, like I thought they hit a home run getting a coach like Mike Sullivan, thinking that he could fix the locker room. But I think because Chris Drury is still there, Chris Drury is the problem. The players probably don't want to go in there because they're just like, I don't want to have what happened to Jacob Trouba happen to me. I don't want to have what happened to Barclay Goudreau happen to me. I like what incentivizes the players to be happy there. Like those guys, like if there's anyone you have to please, it's your players because those are the guys that are on the ice with like, making your product.
See, that's the thing with the Rangers. Like, it's just, and Sully, I get the whole money aspect, but I was just surprised Sullivan saw this situation after what happened to Trouba and what happened to Goudreau and maybe to a lesser extent Kreider, because these hits was in the offseason, wasn't really forced out. But after happening to all these guys, and now it looks like Zibanejad might eventually be the next guy out the door, they got just an old roster of guys who just aren't performing. And what are you going to do with that? Like, especially after seeing how they played last year. I get they were a big rebound candidate. You get a new coach. You have kind of just a mental reset. Laugh just had a bad season. Maybe he rebounds back to where he was 2 seasons ago. And it just seems like things outside of Shesterkin and that top pairing deep end have just kind of gotten worse. Like Panarin, for Panarin's standards, is not having a good year. He seems like he's got 1 foot out the door. I wonder if he's going to be gone soon. We talk about the NHL free agency class of 2026 and all these guys getting off the board. He may end up being the one guy that does stay. I don't think he wants to stay with the Rangers right now.
I don't think
I
don't think anybody wants to stay with the Rangers right now. I think the GM has made it such a shit show there that nobody enjoys playing hockey there. And I don't think a good coach is going to help you there. And to your point about Mike Sullivan going there, I also think it's the allure of coaching a original 6 franchise as well. That does have some pull into decision makings. But I mean, I just think the GM's ruining everything that they could possibly do. They got a really good coach over there. I mean, I don't think the coaching is the problem.
No,
I think it's upper management is the problem.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Well, and then in the opposite conference, you have the Minnesota Wild, who they had again at the start of the season, like Gustafsson and Waldstad, good. They're good goaltenders. Their defense is a little aging, but they got a good defense. And then, they got Kaprizov signed and done. So that worry was over. I mean, it's not like he was a free agent this year anyway, but they got him signed and done. But now they're just not there. They're just not playing to the point where where all of us thought that Minnesota could have taken that next step forward, getting that $14 million off the books from the buyouts of Ryan Suter and Zach Parise. Like, you thought that they would be better. I mean, Kaprizov is doing well. I think he's on like a 98 or 100 point pace. Good. So he's getting his points. I think he's performing, but the team as a whole just isn't. And you just look at their coach. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but I know it's Bill Guerin. That's the GM. By the way, his comments after Kaprizov signed the contract, he just goes, "Oh, he better like getting paid" or something like that. Was hilarious because he's absolutely right. And he also has to live up to it, which I think right now he is. I mean, still, I think it's a bit of an overpay, but he's going to at least get close to 100 points, if not break it. It's just, that's another team I think needs to figure it out, but I think they're younger than New York.
Yeah.
Yep. I had high hopes for Minnesota coming into the season, to be honest with you, and they are not performing the way I could possibly imagine.
The Toronto Maple Leafs of the Western Conference.
Yep.
We've said it before. We'll say it again. They're the Leafs of the West.
Yep.
And speaking of the Maple Leafs, just because the Minnesota one was quick because they just need to be better. Like they need to figure out. I think they actually have the roster and they can do what it takes to get to the playoffs. They're just not getting it done. The Toronto Maple Leafs are missing desperately missing Mitch Marner. Austin Matthews is not performing to what you would expect him to be this early on in the season. Can he figure it out? Sure.
There's time.
Nylander, I believe, leads the team in points, which good. He's a good player. Tavares is doing okay. Nyes is doing okay. But that team as a whole, like I'm going back and I'm looking at, I'm like, yeah, you know what? That team defense still, it's okay. Like it's just, I feel like Mitch Marner was a bigger piece to that team than people thought, and they ran him out of town.
I was just going
What
to say that.
happens? He was a 100-point guy.
Crickets.
It's not like they lost the bum.
I was just going to say that they ran him out. Like whatever happens to Toronto, they fucking deserve it. I'm just saying that right now because the fact is that whole town ran him out of Toronto, and now you're like, oh, why are we doing so bad? It's because you get your glue guy who actually gets shit done, minus in the playoffs, right? Whatever. But consistently, you still need to have a good regular season to make the postseason. But the fact of the matter is, you ran him out of town. He's doing fantastic in Vegas, and you're missing him. So you deserve it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, are they the team? Yeah. Are the Leafs a team that I think can figure out and make a push to the playoffs? Yeah. I mean, I still think they're a playoff team, but right now, if you're a Leafs fan, I would be a little concerned. I like just from how they look and how they play, like they're not outpacing teams like they have in the past few years. They're just not. Like so could that window be closing? And so if I'm them, I'm very concerned. Like they're gonna need to make some moves at the deadline if they're gonna try and do it. They don't have a first round pick this year. I think they have theirs next year. But imagine if they don't make the playoffs and then let's just say they get pick number 8. Guess who that goes? That goes right to Boston. Their pick's only top 5 protected, not top 10. They gave a first round pick and Fraser Minton for Brandon Carlo.
That was
so they must have been that desperate last year. No, like genuinely, they must have known last year that their window, if they didn't get it done sooner rather than later, is going to start closing rapidly.
What do the Bruins and Flyers have in common there, Cam?
Fucking over the Leafs.
They both fleeced Toronto at the deadline last year because they both just absolutely stole from that team. They both got a first round pick and a prospect for a meh player.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say Brandon Carlo is a meh player.
Second
He's
pairing
a very solid
third line center.
Yeah, like I would very arguably say like Brandon Carlo is one of the, at least statistically, was one of the better penalty killing players and a very good shutdown defenseman. But you know, it was overpaid, and I think Toronto did it because they knew what was happening. So they knew Mitch Marner wasn't going to stay. Now, I will say this: the way that this team is performing under a Greg Berube system, shocking.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The issue with them is
he's no scrub.
I wonder if they're starting to tune him out already. I really do. Like they got what they wanted. That they were probably a big thing that they're hoping is Matthew Nines ends up turning that next member of their quote unquote core 4. And he's a real good player, don't get me wrong. But that is massive shoes to fill. So
I would say he's top 6 talent. I don't know if I'm going to give him the term elite yet. I need to see a little bit more out of him, but I do like Matthew Nines.
That's why it's big shoes to fill.
Going into staying in the East, but transitioning to the Metro, Washington. Apparently, Pierre-Luc Dubois may miss significant time, a guy who's fit like a glove in that system, and they're also not performing to where I thought that they were going to be, because I thought they have a solid team. But they can't figure it out either.
I think a lot of Washington's success last year was just riding off the coattails of Ovi and just running off of the run that he was having. Don't get me wrong. I still think Washington will be battling for a playoff spot till the end, but they don't have that ignited flame like they had last season to play as hard as they were. You know?
Let's see if you guys agree with this. They are the Leafs equivalent in the Metro, where they are the most likely out of like those teams that we mentioned, like, you know, those fringe people right now, where they'll likely make the push for the playoffs.
They'll make a push. I mean, no one's out of it right now, but Well, I feel like their ceiling is capped. I don't think that team's is really sniffing a cup at all
Yep.
this year with the core that they have.
I don't think they're sniffing a cup either, but they're sniffing the playoffs. And I
Yeah,
think
they'll be in right in the playoff mix.
Yeah.
That I'll say.
Yeah. I do feel that the that the Caps are definitely the Leafs equivalent in the Metro, where they're perpetual playoff contenders, right? And they're always there, but they always get bounced out from whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, let's go over the comps. They always seem like to make the playoffs. The difference with them was they were a second round elimination, where the Leafs were always a first round elimination.
Yeah.
And like the Leafs are with the Bruins being their
Predominantly.
daddy, the Penguins are the Capitals' daddy. So, yeah,
and it's hard to beat, the Crosby and Malkin, the combination of the past 20 years of who the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Now they did get past them in 2018.
They did.
I will give them that. So at least they've done it once.
Yep.
And they did win a cup with that core. But it's they're like the watered down Leafs. I think is a better comp to put on this. Really.
I mean, at least they make it further in the playoffs than the Leafs do.
Also true.
Staying within the Metro, we've got two teams that I want to bring up. The New Jersey Devils, who have seemingly figured it out. They're getting contributions where they need to. Luke Hughes looks like a stud. We talked about it on previous episodes, and the Devils can be a short one, but when this Devils team is healthy, they're good. The only questions I have for them is Markstrom and Jake Allen. Are those the sustainable goaltenders that can get you to a cup final? Personally, I don't think so. I think their goaltending, which I don't think they're going to be able to improve on, might be a bit of an Achilles heel. Now they've been good. They're just old. And I get a little concerned with that. But, Tim Thomas was 35 when he won the cup. So I got to be, I got to respect, respect age with respect to goaltenders. It's that defense where I think they'll need to add is on the defensive side. And I don't know if you guys or if you guys agree there, because their offense is good. They have Hughes, Nico Hischier, Dawson Mercer's finally popping up. They have Jesper Bratt. They got offense.
Yeah, I think they do need to pick up on the defensive end to make a real push into a deep playoff run there. Their goaltending does concern me. But honestly, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I'm excited that Jersey's kind of back to being a good hockey team, because even when I was a kid, I just enjoyed watching, the Devils play. I always thought that their games were exciting. And, yeah, man.
With the trap?
You woke up, Rick.
I'm tired today, but with the trap, you thought that was exciting?
Yeah.
Trap is boring hockey, but
I mean,
I will always hate the Devils. I have Scott Stevens PTSD.
You know what? I will say this to Steve's point. Though they played the trap, it wasn't a boring way they played it. It was more a strategic way. Like they didn't it wasn't like the Ottawa was when they played the trap with Erik Karlsson, where he was clearly a faster skater and could break it out faster or something along those lines. I think the Devils did it better, where it gave the appearance where it wasn't that boring.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all.
You can agree or disagree, but the fact is the trap worked. How many cups did they win?
It worked, but
it worked. Listen, that I don't care. I want my team to win a Stanley Cup, right? I don't care what works. It could be the most boring version of hockey.
I get that.
But I want to win a cup.
We just hated the trap. No, but back in those days, we hated the trap. That's why I'm so surprised.
Listen, the New Jersey Devils will always have a fucking black hole spot in my heart. They're the reason why I didn't witness the Philadelphia Flyers win a cup as a kid. That was the one team they just could never fucking get past. The Lindros and LeClaire and Renberg and Legion of Doom Flyers always ran into those fucking Scott Stevens Devils, and they always were the thorn in their side, except 2004 when the Lightning fucked them over.
Steve smiled.
That's besides the point.
Or 2010 in Chicago.
We don't talk about 20.
Didn't Stevens basically end Lindros' career?
Yes, he did. He fucking lit him up in center ice.
I remember it well.
And my heart just sucked.
remember it well.
Yeah.
That was like losing your first love. Oh,
Hey,
Your first love. Oh, that's good.
Eric
That's rich.
Lindros.
oh my God. When I saw
Oh,
Scott
well, wah,
Stevens
wah,
destroy,
wah.
dude, I knew it was the end instantly that hit happened. Lindros was just done. You could
Yeah,
tell just by the moment that hit was laid on.
Yeah, but I mean, he
was
had so
done.
many concussions at that point. Yeah,
Well,
like
that's
he
why.
was-
There's no music needed. I'm just lamenting in the past. Back when we were
I know.
relevant.
That's why I was doing it. It's like the world's smallest violin playing your song, buddy. Oh, well, speaking
That
of the
was
world's smallest
graduation.
violin playing,
especially over.
I know, but I
Lindros.
was just thinking it's like the world's smallest violin.
I
Speaking of
hated
teams that
Lindros
give
so
out,
bad.
and now
Am I the
Rick
only
has
one?
PTSD.
I hated him so much. I'm the only one here, probably, right?
I
I
was
just
not a
hated
huge
that
fan
was
of
for
Eric
Scott
Lindros.
Stevens.
No, I was not a huge fan of Eric Lindros. I just wasn't a huge fan of his. Like that's just.
I
it.
don't care. He was our last franchise player, and he was incredible.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I'm not going to deny
speaking-
that. But still, didn't like him.
Speaking of teams and people that give Alex PTSD, the Pittsburgh Penguins are probably one of the biggest surprises this year, being second in the Metro Division. 13 games played, 8 wins, 3 losses, 2 OT losses for 18 points, tied with New Jersey. Obviously, the tiebreaker being the regulation wins, the regulation versus overtime wins. I don't think it's sustainable, but honestly, I think it's Malkin's last year, and I think they're going to try and ride that high. And he's obviously playing out of his mind right now. So
Good. Play yourselves out of McKenna. Good. Go right ahead.
just as well as I do, somehow
And
they're gonna land
13th
on-
in the standings, and fuck your chances out of McKenna.
They
Please.
don't.
do
They're
it.
players. They don't even consider that for a
Good.
second.
I hope they don't. I hope they keep this up. I hope they just barely miss the playoffs. I want them in the mix all the way to the end. And then they realize, oh, fuck, this is worth nothing. And we miss the playoffs again. And our
Do you think
season's
Crosby
over.
and
And we're
Malkin
not
give
going
a
to get
fuck
a
as long
fucking
as they
blue
get
chip
another ring?
prospect. Boy, we fucked our future.
Well, even if they finish
Yeah, they
last,
don't
it's
care
not
as long as they get
guaranteeing they
another
get
ring.
that guy. So
Yep.
No,
Yeah,
it's
look
not
at the Islanders. They
guaranteed,
got
but-
Matthew Schaefer.
yeah, but you're right.
I'm not working for him.
And look where they were when they got so no guarantee on the bottom.
No, but I'm just saying, I want them not even in the top 11. I want them out of there.
By the way,
I
real
want
quick
them
on
dead.
Matthew
I want
Schaefer.
them dead. I want their family dead. That's what he's saying.
Real
From a
quick on
movie.
Matthew
Yeah,
Schaefer,
from a
by the way,
movie.
guys. Like,
No, it's a joke.
I don't know, but you're going through your moment. Drink your rock star. Have your mate. What is it? That line from Grown Ups? Eat your
I'm
mace.
tired.
Old
I'm
man
lack of
yells at
sleep.
cloud.
I'm delirious from lack of sleep.
Just real quick on Matthew Schaefer. He's the real deal, man. Like I'm rooting so hard for that kid. Like his story with his mom and everything else, and his excitement in the
It's
league,
hard,
and just
yeah.
how he just carries himself, and he's just one of those NHL players where he's hard to dislike. He just seems like a really good kid, well brought up, completely humbled. There's some players on the Islanders I'm not a huge fan of, Kyle Palmieri, but mainly because he's a Bruin killer. But he's just a kid that I hope has a long, successful career in the NHL.
Rick's not going to want to hear this, but I'm going to say it. He's going to run away with the Calder. And it's not even going to be close in 2 or 3 months. He's got 15 points in 12 games. He's got 5 goals and 10 assists as a defenseman. That's insanity. This dude,
he's giving
this
Erik
is
Karlsson
sustainable.
vibes.
But this dude's on pace for over a 90-point season as a rookie, as a defenseman. This kid's
And that's
incredible.
shattering. That's gonna shatter if this holds true,
Wade
that'll
Hudson's
shatter
record's
the
going to last
record.
all of 1 year.
Yep. And it's no knock again. It's not a
No,
knock
it's
on
no
Lane
knock
Hudson.
on
Wait,
Hudson.
whoa.
It's just to mark
How
how
many points?
insanely good
How
Matthew
many
Schaefer
points
is
did
then.
you give him?
He's
Schaefer?
gonna lap.
Wait.
This
How
isn't
many
even gonna be a
points does he
competition
have
game
right now?
anyway.
Whoa.
15 and 12.
He's
If the
got
current
10.
pace
Looking at it on
holds,
NHL, he's got 10. Where you got 15?
Alex, did you misspeak?
Uh-oh.
No, he has 15 points. I'm looking at it right now.
I'm looking at it right now. Rookies, top
Matthew
of the
Schaefer,
list. Matthew
12
Schaefer,
games
10
played.
points.
Oh, I was looking at points. I'm
He's
sorry. I thought
tied
it
with
was 5 goals, 10
Demidov.
assists.
He's
I'm
tied with
sorry. 5 goals,
Demidov.
5 assists.
Oh.
That's
I
why he didn't
apologize,
see it.
everybody.
That's why he didn't see it. He's
I
tied with
thought it said 5
Demidov.
goals, 10 assists. Okay. I
right,
apologize
so hold
for
on.
that.
Let me
Thank
do
you
the
for
math
correcting
here.
me.
10
He is
points.
on pace for 6 points. That is what he's on. So he would just, if this holds, he would just beat Lane Hudson. And again, we're not
That's
trying to
different.
say it is not on Lane Hudson, because Lane Hudson is a stud. He's going to be phenomenal. He's going to be a great defenseman in the league. But seeing this out of like guys like Lane Hudson and Schaefer, it's just there's something special, and it's something
Especially
like,
on a shitty Islanders team.
yeah.
With no
It's
rules.
Well, Hudson did it on a great Habs team or something?
well. Here's the thing: Lane Hudson was on a Habs team that is clearly ready to make the strides to make playoff pushes and start becoming contenders.
Yeah, one of the reasons was because of Hudson last year. So
yeah, well,
Yeah, but
yes.
he already
so
had a good core around him. I don't know if
Yeah.
I can say the same about this Isles team.
yeah,
you
the
guys praise the
Islanders
Habs.
don't.
I love the way you praise the Habs when you want to talk up somebody else, but now next you're gonna
No,
go slap
listen.
the fraud.
No,
Hudson's incredible. No one's taken that away from him. All I'm saying is they benefited off of each other. Let me ask you this, Rick. What team do you think is better right now? This year's version of the Isles or last year's version of the Habs?
I haven't seen the Isles for a second this year, so I can't really say.
I can
answer
tell
it
you for
you.
sure it's
Last
going to be
year's version of the
Montreal.
Habs. This
Agreed,
Isles team has
Montreal.
no winger core. Their wingers are so mediocre, it's not even funny.
You could argue Montreal last year did not necessarily need Lane Hudson, but the Isles definitely needed Matthew Schaefer.
No,
Lane Hudson helped. Lane Hudson
Montreal
helped.
doesn't make the playoffs without Lane Hudson.
I'll just
be
throw-
fair there.
No.
I'll just throw this in for
But I'm
Hudson.
just saying he's not.
Players like Schaefer, that style that he plays and all that, I haven't really seen him, but I think you've seen a lot of other players play that. One thing Hudson had was he brought something different in the look and what he did on the ice that not too many players can bring. The movement.
I think that's fair.
I'd say
and
they're
it
identical.
obviously added to Montreal's strengths, but also like if you're asking me straight up, which team is better? Like Cam asked, right? Like it's
Montreal. I know.
Were better last year, and
yes, they were.
And
I'll
they
agree.
were. And
I'll agree.
The fact is, what is around what the core of Montreal is much better than anything that the Isles have.
Yes, but they weren't really performing at that last season.
Yep.
And I think my point is valid that Hudson brought something to the table in doing what he did that had nothing to do with the core around him. Is the style that he plays and the way he moves and all that and his vision. I think that is something that
I can test that.
You haven't seen that much. You haven't seen guys like that move like that.
I can agree to that point, but also he gets the help from a core that's already established.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just saying that he did bring something that is totally unique last year. That's all I'm just trying to point that out. Really.
Well, yeah,
I'm
not going to disagree there. I'm not going to disagree there, Rick, but what I will contest is that he was complementary to the pieces that were already there, whereas in Schaefer is building that complement. So now they need to build the complementary pieces around Schaefer.
Yes.
I get that, and I'm not disagreeing. I'm just trying to make a point that Hudson just brought something different that he stood out. It's kind of unique that I don't think Schaefer is doing that. He's doing a lot of other things. But he's not doing some of the stuff that Hudson did last year. That's all I'm saying.
You're right. He's doing that and more. I think he's doing that and more for the Islanders.
Things. He's doing different
things.
I
want to say something about Matthew Schaefer. His defensive analytics are really good. And Hudson had 6 goals last year. Schaefer has 5 already. He's going to shatter
different players. Are they going to what? He should match them point for point exactly.
I didn't say.
Well, if you're going to compare them, hold on, Rick. Well, then what's your point of comparison? Like, we're not saying he needs to match point for point, but you know what I mean? Like, okay, so then how are we supposed to compare the players? Like, yes, you have to compare points, play style, and the like, right?
No, he's trying to. he's trying to compare point for point. So Hudson got only 6 goals, so that he's not as good. It's not as good a performance.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would actually argue against that.
I'm arguing against that as well. I just think that
Stupid,
pardon the pun, he's alone on the island right now.
Yeah, listen, I don't disagree with that. I'm not denying that. I was just trying to make a point that, Hudson does this other thing that you don't see often. That's all I was just trying to do. But I agree with you. I mean, it's not a great team that he's on, and Montreal had the beginnings of the team that you're seeing this year. It was just starting last year where they were getting to that. So I'll agree. But still, he's something special, There's, they're different, special, but they're both special.
Let's pivot to the great points, guys. By the way, like that, great points on Hudson in the East and everything like that, and like what's coming for them as well. Let's pivot to the West because there's just a couple teams in the West that I think need some addressing. We already talked about Minnesota. That Calgary is where they are because we knew that was going to happen. I did have them higher, but I was just hoping that they could do something or whatever. But couple teams that's surprising right now. The Anaheim Ducks. They are first in the Pacific. They're 7-3-1, and yes, they have 5 regulation wins. So it's okay. Like they're doing good, but finally good to see that team is now taking strides to being better than they were years before, because we all heard the rumors, right? That the locker room was bad, management was bad, the coach was bad, everything was bad. Zegers didn't want to show up. Players didn't want to show up. Nobody wanted to do anything. And I think that's where the Rangers are heading. We already touched upon that. But now Quenneville, and I know everyone has their own thoughts upon Quenneville, but he comes in, he's cleaning things up, and hopefully he remains to be an astute, a better individual than he was years prior. That's in the past. We're going to focus on the now. But we now see that team is starting to make strides in the right direction. I think it's good to see, and I think it's good for hockey and the citizens of Anaheim.
Yeah, Anaheim, you saw the steps they were making last year before this. And, they got a good young core. As much as I hate to say it, Gauthier looks like he's playing great. Troy Terry's not young, but he's a good complimentary winger. Leo Carlson, man, that kid deserves – listen, I already sick to my stomach. I gave him his props. Enough said. Leo Carlson, though, that kid's something. That kid looks like an all-around point-producing two-way center. He's a future Selke winner. That kid is a flat-out superstar. Flat-out superstar, plain and simple. Yep. He gives you everything you want and then some. So he looks like the real deal. It's got a good team right now. They do. I think I had them pushing for a playoffs. But I think I had them in the wild card when we did our end of the year, beginning of the year predictions, if I remember correctly. But that team seems like they are starting to click on all cylinders.
Yeah, all points indicate that they are.
I definitely don't hate them at all, and I like where the team is. Anaheim's like my third favorite team. Just if you think about it from the movies and everything else,
their jerseys are so sick. I love their jerseys. Just for that fact, they're up there for me. I love it.
Yeah. I like the fact that they brought back the Wild Wing mask. That was cool. And they're doing things right. And I don't know. I was worried about them, with Trouba, adding some of those guys. But they're definitely proving that it wasn't that bad. And I think Trouba's on a bit of a revenge tour right now. I don't think he's happy with how, that his exit was in New York. And then you look at Chris Kreider, who's catching some wind here. They added, I think, the veteran leadership that I think that they were missing. I would, however, like to see Mason McTavish, just he's got 8 points in 11 games, just a smidge more. I just want to see a smidge more out of him. Not a lot, just a smidge. By the way, whoever gave him this fucking haircut, can we fire that person?
I love it. I'm here for
smokes. Look at that.
I love it. I'm here for it, baby. Frizzle it
Seasonal.
up. He looks like a Wolverine.
Good Canadian
Mason
boy.
Wolverine McTavish. Oh man, it's just the poopy hair, man. No, good for Anaheim. They're outpacing Vegas slightly, not by a lot, and it's literally just by I think it's just Vegas has 2 OTLs. That's the difference here, as opposed 3 OTLs as opposed to Anaheim's 1, but they're tied in points at 15. Another team that's kind of surprising, Chicago, and to an extent, I guess San Jose, but not really. But really focusing on Chicago here because Bedard better than he was years prior. Frank Nazar, holy crap, dude, he's so good.
He's so good.
That team's starting to come together.
Yeah. And
Spencer Knight is a stud.
Oh, yeah. I think it's a combination of a few things. Bedard, I've given him a ton of shit. I couldn't stand him, to be quite frank with you. I mean, I was talking so much shit about him, but it finally looks like things are clicking. Things are clicking around him as well. He put on some weight. He looks the best he's looked in the end since he's been in the NHL. He's playing really well, and it's just really good to see. And I'm so impressed with Nazar. He that guy's electric. I like watching that kid play. He is so good. And, I think Knight is on a little bit of a revenge tour because he didn't get to win a cup last year and got dealt to a bottom feeder team last year. And I think he's just playing out of his tree. And he's really helped that team get some wins. And they finally have a solid goalie there.
Alex is gone. Let's talk about him.
What a bullshit. No, Alex has left the building. He had to dip for personal reasons. So we'll definitely get him back next week and get his thoughts here. I'm sure he'll share them in our group chat offline. Rick, do you have anything that you want to add about the Blackhawks?
About the Blackhawks? No, not really.
No, really. Jeez,
you're
just a fucking
Nazar was picked with a pick that we traded them, I believe.
Yeah. Well. Mm-hmm. I mean, you guys are great. Like, Montreal's great, and they're looking on the up and up. But Frank Nazar he's
a real deal.
I can't wait.
Yeah, no, he's the real deal. Good player.
He's real.
And then just
no particular.
And then just real quick before we get out of here, two teams disappointing. Well, one of the teams we actually thought needed to really have their season be dependent on like a couple players, and that's one of them is the Vancouver Canucks. Thatcher Demko needed to show that his knee was not going to be that impacted. They needed that team to come together. Elias Pettersson needed to start scoring goals. He needed to start doing everything that he possibly could, to get the team where it is. And right now they're injury riddled. They need a center. Philip Keedle, he's out, I believe, with a concussion. So they're just a team I think they need to also think about what their future looks like, because it looks like Quinn Hughes might be on his way out.
For sure, injury prone, that team. That team has too many injuries to count. And you're not going to make a playoff push that way. If half your team's out, I mean, you just can't do it. Another team that I wanted to mention too is San Jose. How disappointed I am with them. They have a lot of young talent around them, and boy, I wish they were off to a better start.
You know what it is, Steve? I think it's their defense. Their offense is there. Like, you know what I mean? They have the offensive prospects, and they have one good guy in Dickinson. I believe it's Dickinson that they have, if I'm remembering correctly. But I think one thing they're definitely going to focus on this year is if they get that second or third overall pick, they're going to go with Verhoff, who is making a very strong case to be the first overall. I mean, it's likely going to be more likely than not going to be McKenna, but like Verhoff is he's making his case. I will say yes. Like, I would like to see San Jose become better because, again, I don't really hate the Sharks. I loved Patrick Marleau. I loved Logan Couture. I loved obviously Jumbo Joe. I liked a lot of the guys on there, and being such a young team, it's hard to find a guy on there that you dislike outside of Dmitry Orlov because he's a schmuck. Just because he left Boston. The other team is Los Angeles. You know, it's Ans Kopitar's last year. You would have hoped that they dug deep and just did whatever they could. And just right now, they're 14 points. They're right there, but man, oof.
They're never going to be good until they get rid of those goddamn silver helmets.
The curse of the silver helmet strikes again.
I fucking hate those
I will
things.
say this. It's not, when you're looking at it, they're not aesthetically pleasing.
Not at all.
On the ice, it's too bright.
It's
I
horrible.
just feel like it doesn't do well. Like, you know how Matt loves Notre Dame, right? Like, you know, the gold helmets.
They're like apparently just like that. Yeah. Well,
You
Vegas
can't have
has the gold helmet. Doesn't Vegas have also a gold helmet? I hate those too.
Yeah, but I don't think it's as bad. Like, you know what I mean?
I
You
hate
can
them.
only have so much like chrome plated or like prismatically shining things on the ice without it
Yeah,
just being an
that's
eyesore for people on TV.
Yeah, but the Knights gold helmets are shiny like that too. They're horrible. They're horrible.
So,
I hate
well,
those helmets.
Only so
I
much
do
we can do.
think the gold looks better than the silver, though. In my opinion, I think the silver is just way too shiny.
Yeah,
And
the silver is the worst. The silver is the worst.
I mean, yeah, when you like looking at it, like, you know, on the ice, because it's already like the ice is white, right? And then the way
It's
the
too
light
much.
hits the ice and the way the ice, like, you know, the light hits the helmet, and it's just
It's a way to
especially if
cheat
they're
to
in.
blind the goalie. They're trying to blind the goalie.
But speaking of that, do you remember like a while back when I think it was in Ottawa, like the time like when the sun was setting, it actually peeked through, I think, one of the entrances into the stadium, and it was blinding. I think I don't know if it was Olmark, but it was Corpusalo on Ottawa. He's just like, I can't see anything because the sun is shining through. Look it up on YouTube, dude. They had to stop play, and they actually had to put a curtain where the entrance was because the way the window was and the way the light was shining through, like the sun was actually hitting Corpusalo or whoever the goalie was at the time in the eyes.
No, never. I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. Guys, great talk. Great fun tonight. Final thoughts before we close out.
I have one. So, Steve, you were saying earlier that you're a ref. So I have a question.
Uh-oh.
Where is it, like when you're on the ice, where do you guys keep the little cane? I've been waiting all fucking episode to get that joke.
It's our back pocket. That's where we keep.
That's the little bulge you see. I was wondering what that was. Okay.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. We hide it
Well,
right there.
ask his girlfriend. The little bulge is something else, but
That's in the front. Back pocket. If that's in his back pocket, it's pretty fucking big. You got to wrap it all the way back into the back pocket.
No, they fold down.
No, but it's not. Yeah, no, I know that.
okay, we got fucking Daredevil here.
Down, that's pretty big, man.
Mm.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for episode, what is it, 89 now? Holy smokes, we're getting close to episode 100. We're going to have to do a big celebration for that one. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'll do it for tonight's episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, give us some feedback. Let us know your thoughts. Did we miss one of your favorite teams? Like anything you want us to bring up? We pay attention to those comments, so make sure you leave them. Don't forget to reach out to us via our website, don'tpuckwithmedia.com. You can also find all of our blogs there. We talk all things NHL. Rick talks all things Habs, but that's fine. That's his niche. So that's where we're at. But until next time, guys, see you around.
Promise that you'll kiss me.